Добрий день. Розпочинаємо роботу в Українському кризовому медіа-центрі. І наша перша тема.
We start our work, and the topic is 3 years of Petro Poroshenko, which laws the president vetoes and which supports. Oleksii Koshel, CEO of the All-Ukrainian Public Organization Committee of Voters of Ukraine, and Denis Rybachok, analyst of the All-Ukrainian Public Organization Committee of Voters of Ukraine. Welcome on stage. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Tomorrow there will be the third anniversary of presidential elections in Ukraine, and we have a good trend now. There is informal political tradition when top officials report on their work, and people and the media can see these results. We had the tradition of 100 days and also 1 year, 2 years, and as of now, we have the opportunity to have the results of the 3 years of presidency of Petro Poroshenko, and we hope that a lot of materials will be created concerning this topic. Expert surveys, some organizations will analyze different directions in the work of the president, and the Slivna project of Committee of Voters of Ukraine. This is the project where we analyze the work of the parliament. We have monthly and quarterly reports on the cooperation with the parliament, and now we present the report on 3 years of Petro Poroshenko's work and his cooperation with the parliament, in what way he cooperates with the parliament, and whether he is efficient in this cooperation with the parliament. What conclusions were made? In 3 years of his rule, there were 111 draft laws, and out of them 93% became laws. So this is 84%. So 84% become laws. And this figure is important for us in comparison. We also analyzed the work. First year, the government submitted 107 and 171 draft law of the Cabinet of Ministers. This is low, and they should find the ways how to cooperate more efficiently with the parliament and in parliamentary and presidential republic. This percentage is 80 or 90%. If we compare it with initiatives of the deputies, they more than 4,000 draft laws. They submitted more than 4,000 draft laws, and only 326 became laws. So this is 7%, and this is really low. And this is connected not only with the number of laws that are adopted by the parliament and the efficiency of work of the parliament, but also with the fact that they register huge number of draft laws, which are just PR draft laws, or we call them just spam, because politicians use the mechanism of registration of draft laws in order to promote their rating, to draw attention to themselves, to create media event. So we have this low percentage. If we compare legislative work of Yushchenko, Yanukovych, and Poroshenko, what we may see in this. Yushchenko in 3 years, 62% of support, so this is lower, but there is an explanation to this, because the president confronted the parliament during many years, and During Yanukovych time, this was 92%, and it can be connected with the stable coalition. And in our report, you may see that coalition provided 100% to support the government's draft laws, and President Poroshenko have 84%. So this is quality work, quality mechanisms of work between the president, in cooperation between the president and the parliament. The topics, in the majority of cases, they adopted the laws in the sphere of security and defense. 14 laws were adopted, and it is natural that in the first place this is the ratification of agreements. So each second draft law was adopted, and then security and defense, 14 draft laws were adopted, and then our materials showed that policy and justice 6, and the law enforcement 5, and in other areas less draft laws. We would like to stress that each second draft law of the president was registered, and the parliament reviewed them, and they were on the agenda, and these draft laws were submitted as urgent, and this reduced time for the passing of these draft laws, and they were timely adopted. If we compare it with the work of previous presidents, the indicators of these draft laws that were registered as urgent, there were less such draft laws, and there are some filters that allowed the president to carry out this work, the Council of Reforms, and in case the president urgently want to make changes to Constitution, Constitutional Commission was a filter. So in this, it can be explained. It can be explained by this. So, voting for draft laws of the president, there is an infographics that we have in our materials. The biggest number, People's Front, Petro Poroshenko bloc, 79%. This is maybe connected with faction discipline. And the third faction that provides the majority of votes for the president's draft laws is Samopomich. These are 74%. Samopomich, and half of the votes for draft laws of the president were provided by Radical Party of Oleksii Koshel, 66%, and Batkivshina Party, 53%. Who provides the smallest number of votes for presidential draft laws? These are Voля Narodu, 48%, and Vidrodzhenia, 32%. And opposition bloc boycotted draft laws of the president. Opposition bloc, we got only 8% of the deputies of opposition bloc who supported draft laws of the president. We stress once again that there is such a thing. Experts say that coalition do not work without support of opposition bloc, and this also shows that opposition bloc does not support, they boycott this activity, and de facto all coalition works. These are presidential draft laws and government draft laws, and this is a good sign, and there is and they can even improve the work in this way. In our research, we also focused why the president vetoed some laws. And this is an actual topic. And politicians or NGOs, they call on the president to veto one or another law. And Nadia Savchenko these days called on the president to veto the law on Savchenko law on the terms of imprisonment that was recently cancelled by the parliament. And according to the results of our survey, from the start of the work of Parliament of 8th convocation, the President vetoed 39 laws. It should be stated that sometimes the Supreme Council tried to overcome this veto according to Constitution. In order to overcome presidential veto, they should have 1/3 of constitutional part. This is and they tried to overcome veto of the president 15 times, so concerning 15 laws out of 39, and they failed each time. And only 111 voted out of 300 that was needed, and only once there were 200 deputies. There's 93 draft law on the social security for Chernobyl sufferers, and 200 voted, but 300 were needed. That's why the veto was not overcome. And if we look at the laws that were vetoed by the president, we will see two main topics. First, defense and security. He vetoed 7 respective initiatives, and also President vetoed the laws concerning social policy. The last one that was vetoed by the president was the service and local government, the law that was vetoed at the end of April this year. Also, we wanted to find out what were the reasons for this veto, and we should say that formally it was not identified in legislation what should be the grounds for the veto. So this is decided by the president, and the proposals of the president that come to parliament, they often differ from one another in their essence, and we cannot say that there are some clear criteria for the grounds in order to impose veto on a draft law. And we tried to establish some categories, and we established 2 main grounds why the president vetoed a law. First, this is that this law did not correspond to legislation of Ukraine or international obligations, and often these laws contradict the obligations of Ukraine to IMF. And also one more ground is the lack of balance in when the deputies, for example, voted for the law, but there was no money in the budget to implement, or it would infringe the financial system that existed in Ukraine. So the president vetoed these laws. And the part of social laws the president imposed veto on is rather high. And according to the results of our survey, we may see that the president became some filter for these non-quality draft laws, and he saved the reputation of the parliament by this. We can mention 2 examples. The first one, the delay of e-declarations. The president vetoed this law 1 day after it was signed by the head of the Supreme Council. And second law that was vetoed by the president that could infringe the parliament reputation was the law on the return of the credits. This is 1558(1), that the people can return money to the bank, $5, 5 hryvnias a dollar. So the president vetoed this law, and he said that according to the estimates of National Bank, that would cost Ukrainian budget 76 billion, and the Ukrainian economy is not ready for this. That's why the president vetoed this law. And also one interesting conclusion is this: out of 39 laws that were vetoes, 30 were the initiative of the government. This was unexpected because this is all the executive power, and there is some coordination, and in the result, 5 out of 8 laws, they were adopted, but with the proposals of the president. So we should take into account that we should not see veto of the president as something that says that this law won't be adopted. Our survey shows that 15 laws out of 39 they were adopted, but not because the Supreme Council overcame this veto, but because the Верховна Rada adopted the law in the form the president proposed. So they were adopted, but when they took into account the proposals of the president. So in majority of cases, the Supreme Council agreed with the proposals of the president. So there is also some condemnation. Sometimes this veto is seen as a political instrument in order that the president could ban the laws of the opponents. And our research, we looked through what draft laws of what groups the president vetoed. He vetoed the laws of all groups of parliament without exception. Even more, he vetoed the laws that were submitted by Petro Poroshenko bloc or People's Front bloc, and this is logic because these are the biggest factions of the parliament, and they are involved in the biggest number of the legislative initiatives. And you have the list and the materials, and you see that the president vetoes 14 laws, among which there were Leshko, 7, Voля Народа, 6, Vidrodzenia. So all other factions and parties, and you may see that the authors of this law, they were the representatives of different parties. That's why we have such indicators. And the last conclusion in this is that the president, in the majority of cases, formally adheres to the terms of the constitution to impose veto. These are 15 days, and some laws were vetoed later than it is established by constitution. On the whole, we can say that the record delay is 43 days concerning the law on financing of professional and technical colleges, and the president vetoed 2 laws of this sphere, and he vetoed others really quickly, and this is the law on the delay of the work of the system of e-declarations in Ukraine, and in the majority of cases the president adheres the terms, but not in all the cases. Thank you. Thank you, dear colleagues. I would like also to draw your attention to 2 aspects. And before this event, on the site of organization, we will have the renewed version of this report. When we are speaking about the support of a presidential draft laws, each second is concerning ratification of agreements and other concern other sectors. Even if we are not speaking about ratification of agreements, because automatically many should vote for this, and the proportion of our research won't change. So we will place this information, but in order to avoid this confusion, these indicators won't influence our research. The trends are the same, and I would like to say that we also made a comparison with the support of government draft laws and the support of the draft laws of people's deputies, and we see low level of governmental draft laws, only 23, and presidential 84. So this is a serious imbalance, and it shows that now we should make more effort in order that the government and the Verkhovna Rada elaborate the common plan, some document of long-term prospect in order to improve the mechanisms of work in cooperation, the cooperation between the government and the Verkhovna Rada, and the support of and this is a serious signal. We should carry out a full-fledged reform of the parliament, and Petro Poroshenko and the group and others, they say that it is needed, and in this way we will get more quality work in the parliament. Thank you for this presentation, and I have first question for you. This 84% of support of draft laws of the president, is it connected with the quality of presidential draft laws, or just it is connected to the factions that support president in the parliament? It can be explained in different ways. First, we stated that there is a mechanism such as Council of Reforms, and part of this is done through Council of Reforms. That's why a lot of draft laws that are submitted as urgent are adopted. And there is a good mechanism in cooperation between the parliament and the president, and this is a good indicator that shows a good quality of cooperation. And And in the course of voting, we see that the president, the coalition may be active, and they collect votes for these draft laws. And in majority of cases, we see good cooperation. And if we have only 23% of support of governmental draft laws by the parliament, maybe some political game is active here. What is the main factor? And in our previous research, we also reviewed this aspect, how the government communicates with the people's deputies, and one of the main conclusions of our research was that a lot depends on the sphere of the law, and also depending on the minister, whether the minister attends the meetings and the committees, whether he presents these draft laws personally. And people's deputy, they say that this is the indicator whether they will be ready to vote for this draft laws. And concerning the president, the situation with his draft laws is characterized by the fact that many of them are related to military sphere, and it is natural that the parliament of this convocation does not demonstrate opposition to the draft laws on military topics. If the president submits some draft laws on military topics and submit it as urgent, in the majority of cases, the people's deputies adopt this draft law because they understand the need in this. And about the government, a lot of draft laws, they are of different spheres, and they invoke more different viewpoints among the deputies, and that's why it is natural that the indicator of support will be lower than the support to presidential draft laws. But 23% of support to governmental draft laws is still too low, and it depends on communication between the government and the Supreme Council, and it should become better. So do you have questions to speakers? If there are no, thank you for this presentation. Till the next time, goodbye.